Right, so my name's Darren Knight, and I have the privilege of being the Chief Executive of George House Trust, the HIV support organisation. And it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you all here today to the rededication of the Beacon of Hope. The Beacon of Hope was originally conceived in 1997 and erected in 2000, and it was designed by Warren and Jess, who you're going to be hearing from shortly. Delighted you've been able to join us today. What they're going to share with us is what the Beacon of Hope means to them. For 22 years, the Beacon of Hope has stood as a memorial to everyone lost to HIV, as a symbol of the importance of HIV activism and a symbol of hope for the future. Our speakers will all touch on those themes today that you're going to hear from. Over the last 12 months, an amazing group of organisations have been working together to do the much needed work to restore the Beacon of Hope. George House Trust, LGBT Foundation, Friends of Sackville Gardens, Manchester Pride, Friends of Manchester's Gay Village and Manchester City Council have all worked closely together to ensure that the Beacon, once again, becomes a respectful memorial to honour the memories and lives of everyone we've lost to HIV, as well as a really, really important beacon of tackling HIV stigma. The works have included all of the timeline plaques being replaced, which is fantastic. They're a bit worn, so it was nice that was done. It's been interesting how we've been involved in that, so I now know that they are 5mm screws, so if we get any lost, we know where to get from B&Q. But it really kind of brings home a timeline of HIV history that none of us should ever forget. It's really massively important. So I'd really like you all to take a moment to actually look at these later on today. The lettering, I'm frightened of leaning forward, so I'm not going to, but you can see the lettering has been replaced on the plinth, it's been re-gilded, and once again possible to read the words "Time for Action" and "Time for Tolerance." The railings around the beacon have been repainted, and the lighting inside the beacon has been repaired and replaced so it once again can shine brightly. There's some work yet to be done. We're going to have an information board next to this so people can actually understand what the beacon's about and be familiar with that. So anybody who visits Sackville Gardens will get a full HIV history. And I'm sure you'll agree, it's really great to see the beacon looking so good today. So, back in the day, Manchester City Council responded to HIV in Manchester in the early days in a number of different ways, and we're delighted today to be joined by Councillor Joanna Midgley, who's going to come up and say a few words. Thank you.
I think I'll stand here. I don't want to risk an accident. So thank you, Darren, and it's an absolute honour and pleasure to be here with you today. And I just want to say, I want to pass on love and support from Councillor Bev Craig, our leader, who can't be here today, but she would like to be. So Manchester City Council has a proud history of supporting people who live with HIV. Back in 1985, the council provided the first funding for what was then... Did you miss all that? Back in 1985, the City Council provided the first funding for what was then Manchester AIDS Line. And a year later, in response to reports of discrimination against people living with HIV, called a public meeting to discuss the situation with the community and look at ways of working together to tackle that prejudice. We were the first council in the country to develop a detailed HIV and AIDS policy, looking at all our council provision and services and making sure that they were accessible to people living with HIV. And this was followed not long afterwards by setting up a team of specialised HIV social workers. We have stood by people living with HIV, and we will always stand by people living with HIV. We pay tribute today to everyone in this city who is involved in providing support, healthcare, advice and information to those living with HIV, and thank them for what they do, because that work is vital, it's life-saving and life-enhancing. Manchester City Council joins with you today in honouring the memories of everyone lost to HIV, because every one of those people, as you know, was loved and cherished and had their life taken from them too soon. And we also work with you and support you in fighting to end HIV stigma and discrimination. Thank you. And apologies if you didn't hear some of that. I'm going to introduce the microphone.
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell, sorry, for being with us today and sharing those words. I think the really important point is that the only way that we're able to make progress around HIV is through working together, and so having the support of Manchester City Council is really, really important, so thank you. Right, so moving on, our themes for today are remembrance, activism and hope, the very principles of what the Beacon of Hope is. So to talk about the Beacon of Hope as a symbol of remembrance, please welcome Agatha Puri.
Thank you, Darren. Hello, everyone. My name is Agatha. My name is Agatha, and I'm living with HIV. I'm a positive speaker for George House Trust, raising awareness of HIV and telling my story of living with HIV in different settings, including schools. The Beacon of Hope stands in remembrance of everyone we have lost to HIV. 36 million people around the world have died from HIV-related illnesses since the start of the HIV epidemic. Some of those people were known to us, and we honor their memories today. Most of those people were not known to us, but we honor their memories in the same way. Someone once said, "To live in the hearts we leave behind is not to die," and we remember that today. I want us today to also remember the people who fought hard for support services in the early days, the people who fought against the stigma and discrimination, the people who volunteered on telephone lines, the people who cared for their dying partners and friends and loved ones. I pay tribute to the LGBT community and their allies who saw the need to be done and did it. We are forever in your debt, and we thank you. We'll be hearing from a proud HIV activist later. But now, please join me in a minute of silence to remember the people who are no longer with us.